All right, this is a follow-up to a video I just did about my, well, two videos actually. One kind of pedal board run through, two kind of like specifically on the Mastermind, like kind of how I structure all the pages. And then some people asked, and then I thought, some people asked like a year ago, and I forgot. And then other people asked just recently, and I was like, okay, well, I should do one of like the software side of the Mastermind editor and just how I did that. So specifically, I'll link the other two videos. I'll link the one that's the run through video of the board in case that's of interest, and then the one that's specifically just me actually clicking physically through the pages of the Mastermind. And then this is going to be the behind the scenes part of that. So this is how to program all the stuff that I walk through. I hope that makes sense because it does in my brain. So here in the editor, the basic goal, if you hear my computer fan freaking out, sorry, and its days are numbered. So this is inside the Mastermind editor. Again, I have the 6X, so you'll recognize that number of buttons and the configuration of all the stuff. So, and starting with the first page and then my external switch that I have on the board there as well. And maybe if it's easy to do, maybe I'll kind of splice in an image of the pedal board also. That actually might be pretty good to do that. Kind of put it in this little space over here. We'll see. So page one, the bottom four are set up as normal. They're just normal presets, literally normal presets. The ones that kind of come set up by default on the Mastermind. So there's that. And so no real change to those other than like, altering the colors that I wanted them to be and all that stuff. This button up here in the corner is a press and hold button. The first one just mutes the two audio outputs that there are. That's like left and right if you use it. That's a pretty standard thing. So it's a hold, which means that it has one function as opposed to normal. The normal function that when you press it, it mutes. And, so when it's off, it's black. It just doesn't show up at all. And when it's on, it's red. So when I know that button has been pushed, it shows up as being red. And I know that my signal's muted. And then on the hold functions up here, so when I press and hold it, I have it, what did I call it? I called it rhythm. I have one specific preset on the Mastermind that it calls up that I call rhythm, which has no gains of any kind, just a room reverb, no delay, blah, 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 so that I can quickly get to something where I can kind of strum, which I explained. So that set is momentary because for some reason hold functions I think work better. Some of them they respond a little bit better as momentary, I think. So that's something I just kind of mess with if a button isn't working for me the way I wanted it to. And then I didn't worry about the colors. I don't need to know if both of them are on or anything because it's a preset. This one here, this middle button, is also a press and hold. You can tell because if there's two layers of labels, then the top one is what happens when you press the button normally. The bottom one is the label for what happens when you hold it. So as you would guess, the top label is a simple bank down, which is it's literally its own kind of preset button thing, bank down, and it just banks down through whatever set list I'm in. And then the press and hold is it turns my effects off and on, which is right now just the delay and reverb. And since those are outside the Mastermind, it does that with MIDI. It bypasses those two pedals with MIDI. And since that was something I found myself using a lot, I set up a macro for both of those. And a macro is basically just a collection of commands all together. So instead of like every time you have a button that you're like, well, I want to turn my effects off here, instead of having to remember how to do that and be like, which MIDI command on which pedal, whatever, you just come up here to macros. And I have a bunch. And so I have an effects off macro that does that for me. So it sends a momentary specific CC command to my delay and reverb to turn them off and on respectively. And actually this one is just the off commands. And so it's confusing because when you turn that switch on, you want your effects off. And I don't want it to do anything when I turn the switch off. So it's set to none for off, and on it has the command. Hopefully that makes sense to you on some level. If not, just know that throughout all of this, you can leave comments and ask questions. You can email me to ask questions, all that stuff. And then I have the opposite on macro number 2, where, like, because here I'm sending command 30 to both, which happens to bypass them, and I'm sending command 90 to both, which happens to, or like the number 90 on a certain command. It depends on what MIDI pedal you have. It can get really confusing, but specific things usually aren't too hard to figure out. So anyway, that button just on the hold function will, if I turn it on, it fires macro 1. If I turn it off, it fires macro 2. So that's press and hold each time. And there's something about that that's a little funny, because the first time I always try to bypass the effects, it doesn't work. Anyways, this one is another press and hold. I'm only using the normal one at the moment because that's the spill function, which sets my reverb to a specific preset that has a super long tail on it. So if I strum a chord, press this button, it only changes the reverb to that long tail so that I can roll my volume off and the whole thing will sustain forever. That's what happens when I press it on. Off, I have it set to this previous command, so it's just going to go back to whatever preset it was on before if I care about that. Usually at that point, I'm firing another preset from a different song, whatever the next song in the set list is, and so the previous is kind of irrelevant. I hardly ever hit it twice, but I have before, and that has mattered. So that's that. And then this top of set thing was an experiment I kept trying to do. I've tried it like 100 different ways with macros and commands, like, and so if you're watching this and I wanted to be able to, instead of when I'm done with a set and then I want to reset it, instead of just banking down, instead of just banking down all the way through the set list back to the top, I was like, well, can I press one button and get there? And so it would work sometimes, but and so the way I tried to do it was I tried to, where we are, set list up. I tried to just go up to the next set list and then go back. And for some reason that doesn't work. I don't know. I even added this wait command that he added in here to like wait for a second, because if it tries to go up down too fast, it like doesn't do it. I don't know. Technically it works, it goes to the set list, but my delay and reverb presets don't follow the way they're supposed to, and so I don't really know what's going on there, and I haven't bothered to figure it out, so I just bank down every time. And then my two functions here, one of these is, I think, set to global. Yeah, this one. My bottom switch, actually, this is my top switch. This is confusing too, I'm sorry, because my actual switch unit is inverted because I wanted the plug on the different side. So that's why the lower plug says page up, because on my actual unit, those are upside down. It makes sense to me. So my, this one, the top button is the same on everything. It'll page up through my different pages of buttons. And then if I press and hold it, again, 2 rows, there's a press and hold function, and that's the IA store, which kind of saves your settings. So if I want to live make a change to a patch, I can save it. That defaults to this button, I think, and I just moved it over there because that made more sense. And then my bottom button, actually, if I just press it, it just goes up through the set list to like the next song in the set. The lower button made more sense to me for that. So that's a simple bank up command. And then if I press and hold it, it will go to the 5th page, which is this page that I have that's called flow, that will give me just a bunch of like ambient options. It's got a tap tempo, a couple different flavors of swells, and like kind of ambient stuff, like just to be able to roll with the punches or whatever. And so I wanted to be able to get to that quickly from the first page without programming swells in every song all the time, and I do a mixture of both, but So a press and hold there will get me from page 1 to page 5 really quickly, which worked good for me. So that takes care of page 1. Page 1 is most of the time a quick press and hold to get to page 5 to be able to flow if I want to has been helpful. And then a simple one page up to page 2 is kind of like the next place. That's the kind of on the fly page where I have the other stuff that I'll change pretty regularly. Not as much live. Like, it's rare that I would change one of these things live, but it's just if I'm programming or I'm double checking the presets I made for a song or something. I like being able to get pretty quick to a place where I can cycle through my gains or add a chorus or change the reverb or whatever. So on this page, this button is the same on every page. That's why it's checked global, so it never changes. This one is different on the first page because on the first page when I press it, I want it to go to the, what do you call it? The next song in the set list. And then when I press and hold it, I want it to go to that fly page. Well, now I just want it to page back down if I'm past the first page. So this is the same on every page except the first one, if that makes sense. But I can't make it global. So it pages down back through the other pages. And then if I press and hold this one, no matter what page I'm on, it'll jump me back to home, which is page 1. So the press is a simple page down command right here. The hold function is just sends it automatically to page 1. So that's pretty simple. So this one is just a single normal button. It just engages a specific loop that has my chorus in it. So if I want to hear how something sounds with the chorus and without it, that loop happens to be in my insert. And I should say that all of these have the send an update on preset change highlighted because when I'm programming, I want to be able to like virtually press these buttons and have it do the thing, if that makes sense. So if I'm in here for a preset, and this might be like too much, but like here's my preset for this. So I want to be able to go to page 2 and see that, oh, I have the clean compressor setting activated or whatever. And if I want to change that to a different gain or change it to a stack or whatever, engage my chorus, disengage my chorus, I can do all that with these buttons. And the preset will remember it instead of me having to hard program commands and loop changes and stuff. Which, if you kind of know your way around it, that'll make sense. You'll be like, oh yeah, and if you don't, you might feel over your head. I will link them below also, I think, but I can't recommend enough Ron's the owner of RJM. He's made this series on YouTube called Mastering the Mastermind, and it's just him talking over this screen, explaining literally everything. And I wished that was there when I started using a Mastermind because it's super helpful. And I've watched them all just to like pick up a couple of holes and stuff that I didn't know that the Mastermind could do. And so it's well worth watching, especially if you're new to the game. Just plow through all those and then he'll answer, 90% of your questions. Okay, so then this is, there's always been a type of button called an IA cycle button, and that's where you can add steps and you can do up to four different things with each press of a button. So you basically define these steps, and every time you press the button, you can give it a name and a different color, and it will do something different every time. Which actually, this makes me want to see if, don't save. Let's see if this one is programmed. That's my newest one. Okay. So you always were able to do that from the beginning to where if I press, again, if I'm over here, then I can press it once and it turns purple and turns on this pedal. Another time, press it, turns on the compressor in this pedal. A third time, turns on another pedal in this compressor, and then back to off. You could always do that as an IA cycle button, and it's a little bit, cumbersome to program it because, you have to go in here and, say, okay, the first one, I just want it to be I just want it to be off. I want my pedals to be off. Then you have to add this step thing, and then you have to define on the next one. I know my Icarus is loop 6, so I turn off everything else, and then I turn on loop 6, add another step, and then in here I can define the names of what I want to be on the screen every time that I do it. And so you can see that on the preset screen here, that like I showed you before, when you click it, it does what you tell it to do basically. So that's always been good, and he's said that he's going to expand it to where you can do up to 8 things on an IA cycle, which would be awesome. I can't +1 that enough as a feature I would like to see. But what he did kind of in the meantime is like a workaround to give you more, is he lets you group cycle buttons together so that they interact. So over a course of buttons like these, like if I'm cycling through the settings on this one, like these are all gains that have my compressor involved for the most part. But then if I move over here to low gains, then like it will turn this one off. It will always default all the other buttons in that group back to their first state. And like I said, he explains it really well. But this lets me cycle quickly through all the types of gain that I want pretty quickly. And then so it gives me, I think I have 3, 6, 8. I'm using 8 of 9 options across here, which is great. So typically my stages are off with nothing, just a compressor, the compressor plus the Icarus, and the Tumnus by itself. And then this one under high gains, this one stacks them together and then puts on the Rat separately from all the other stuff. And so this lets me really, no matter what preset I'm programming, it's easy to come in here and be like, well, for this one, I think I want a stack sound, or I think I want a compressor, or whatever. And then this one was kind of just an afterthought, because I rarely use the Icarus alone, and I like hearing what the Icarus sounds like against the Icarus with the compressor. I really don't compress after stage 2, but I wanted to see how it would sound into the Tumnus kind of thing. So that's been super useful to have gain cycles set up for that. And the only thing you do to make them talk to each other is you have to put them in a group together and make them IA cycles, and that's it. So like they're all part of the same group, and so they'll all talk to each other, and that they will, if you press another one, it will default everything else in the group back to off. So I know that's a little confusing, but again, his video on that is really fantastic, and that's what let me know that this was even possible, to group these together and make it do that. And so I did a bunch of kind of heavy lifting programming on the front end to make all these cycle groups work. And now that they work, programming presets has been a lot easier, because I don't have to, just so many reasons. So then this group is another set of cycles that is for reverbs, and they all talk to each other as well. And so same thing, each one of these has a step, and it is sending a different preset change to my reverb unit, and then I can name them all and give them all different colors. And what worked for me is I like when they're off to just kind of have them all blue, because that to me feels like a reverb color. I don't know. And then my steps follow the same color pattern in all of them, which that like helps me remember what's what. Like green is always kind of the first step, and then white, and then yellow, and that helps me kind of remember which one I'm on. But again, if I'm on a preset and I'm like, well, I think we need like a long verb here. Do I want like my long haul or my long dome, which is like super crazy? Or do I want to have kind of the more rhythm-based verbs, like, you know, because I don't typically have a long-tailed reverb if I'm like strumming real crazy, unless it's a drone or something. And so it just gives me options with all of these. Set a drone, one that has some modulation in it. I'm not even sure I use that one, but so that's what these are set up to do. And these button when I'm programming. And then same deal, it's just these are all IA cycle buttons, and they're grouped in group 2 so they can talk to each other. So that's all of page 2. Page 3 is utter insanity because all of these are in an IA cycle group. So this is, gosh, three. If you do an off, you can do four per IA cycle. So there's an off state, and then you get three. So that's 3 times 7. That's 21 delay presets, which at this point you may be shaking your head at my insanity. But it used to be that if I was programming a delay, I would have to open like my editor for my delay pedal and be like, which number preset did I store my, eighth note tape delay? You know what I mean? Like, and I would organize the preset, but this way it doesn't even matter. Like taking the time to program all of this stuff in there, I go like, oh, well, it's under tape delays, of course. That's where I would find it. And so again, when you're in presets and I want to, oh, I don't know what's happening there. That's funny. It was probably an old preset or something. So if I want like same color scheme that I told you before. So green with the first press, white with the second, yellow for the third. So I kind of remember. And on here, because I've labeled the steps in each one of these over here, like I decided what I wanted to call it, and so it makes it easy to program because when I'm in a preset, then I go, all right, that's my tape quarter note, tape dotted eighth, tape eighth note. Great, that's the one I want. And again, all of these, you can only have one of them on at a time because it's sending one preset to whatever my reverb is. And the presets are all set to accept tap tempo, which is programmed by song in the Mastermind. So the tempo doesn't matter. It's gonna jump to whatever tempo it's supposed to. And so yeah, it's all these, like you can see the labels here. It's like I've got 2 sets of clean and tape delays just because the clean ones typically have longer tails and higher mix. Just because I've found that tends to be how I use clean delays, and so I just have one for every tap division. I've got quarter, dotted eighth, eighth. 2/3, the fractions drive me crazy, but that one sounds cool sometimes. And that's dotted eighth plus a quarter. That's kind of the naming convention I decided on, like clean 84. I'm like, oh, that's a clean delay, dotted eighth and a quarter. And then a 16th note one. And I have the same setup for tape. And then some miscellaneous stuff, like in the video. I use this a lot, the kind of like, there's no delay, but they are offset slightly, so it like widens a rhythm signal. It almost sounds like a double tracked guitar. I love that for rhythm stuff. Making the delay sound like a chorus. I've used a reverse delay, but I suck at it, so I don't use it very much. And then like a lot of times I'll want just a single repeat that's real loud in the mix, but won't muddy things, or like a standard delay that's like out of the way that I call rhythm. So it took forever to program this. It took forever to decide how to name everything. But in the long run, it saved me a ton of work when I'm programming presets and stuff. So that is button page 3. Again, they're all just in a group. They're IA cycled in a group, and then it's just all the lifting of programming all of that stuff. And I just chose them all to be purple when they're off. So there you go. 2 more pages to go through, really, and then we're done. I don't know how long this is, but I'm sure it's too long. What do we got here? This one, simple on-off loop for the bit crusher. I find page 4 is fine. I don't really need quick access to that, so it's not a big deal. I'm not even sure it is on preset change, whatever, so I can come up here, and if I want the bit crusher on, I can program that into a preset. This one switches my the function switch I plugged into this like stereo sum box thing that I have built into my board, that so it will sum the signal to mono if I want. And so it's just a single press will turn it green and make it in mono mode, but purple is stereo mode, which is where it is most of the time. Don't use that much, but it's there. I thought I'd use it more than I do, honestly. And then this is one of the built-in functions here to like toggle the buffer, the internal buffer inside the Mastermind on and off. Like if I want to see how a pedal reacts with the buffer on or off, like to see if the internal buffer makes a difference in how the pedal sounds. I don't use that much either, but it's there. Banking set lists up and down. I think I said in my other video that, and this is a simple, normal IA button and then a system command to go up or down with your set list. I always get confused that like up a set list number is actually down in my set list, and that always confuses me, but it's probably just me. And then one that kind of gets back to this is a command too, instead of a set list, it's just all the songs. So whatever order your songs are in your Mastermind, it just puts them all in order. So, where are we at? That's that page. Oh, and then a fourth group of cycle buttons for my POG2 presets, of which there are 6. So coming in here to see what those are, you got a +1 octave, a -1, both, and then this one is the setting I use for swells. A kind of, you can actually clean boost with a POG2, which not too many people know. It's not a huge boost, but it's a minor one. And I've used that to kind of see how would it sound to have a boost in the front of a drive or whatever, which is fun. And then a synthy sound also. So just quick access to POG presets. It used to be when I was on the preset page, I would come up here and I would kind of traditionally program this way. Like I said, I would go, all right, I want my POG2 and I want which preset's my octave up, and I'd look down and say, oh, that's number 5. So I'd program that, and then which delay is my dotted eighth, whatever, oh, that's delay 37, and reverb 1 is my room. And just, like I said, for me, doing all the extra work to program these cycle buttons for the things I use the most instead makes me not have to think about this anymore, because they're all built into these and they're named so I can see what they are. So I don't care that my, dotted eighth delay is preset number 47 on my Nemesis or whatever. Like, I've already programmed it, so it doesn't really matter. So maybe that's helpful to you on some level. And then the flow page you've already seen. The tap tempo, I had to look up how to do this. There's a command to attach tap tempo to your MIDI pedals or whatever to send it to them. So these are the commands for the Nemesis and Ventress. And then I think you kind of pick a color for it to be on, and then you have to hit this flash with tempo, and then these checkboxes have to be just like this for the tap to work the way it does, so that it will just flash at whatever color you choose at the current tempo, and then if you tap it, it'll send that out to all your whatever pedals you specify. And these, just kind of like the names indicate, these are all really simple buttons. I just color them differently because I find that if I'll get used to, like, as I play live, my brain will associate the color on this page with what it is that I want to do. And of course, when you name it, when you press this button live, it'll say swell on the screen for a second so that you know. Actually, it may even stay on the screen. But all of these are just simple preset recalls, because if I want to swell, like, I defined a preset for what that is. Where is it? Right here. So I know that I want the POG2 on the swell setting. Oddly enough, I did not program this is still left over from when I used to program by preset, and I haven't changed it yet. And I have one for a gain swell, so I know that I want, and that gain's wrong too, that's funny. So I know that I want a certain, maybe it's not. So I know I want a certain gain on that, or the chorus swell, I know I just want a compressor, but I want to add the chorus into it. And so I liked the idea of having those things easily accessible. So all of these are presets that they all have these same names over here. The drone preset, like I said, just calls up a specific preset that's got, a specific reverb. It may not even have a delay in it, that kind of thing. So that was useful for that. And that's everything I would use kind of when programming. Like, I kind of go back and forth. Like, if I'm at home rehearsing or practicing or programming or something, I usually do everything through the editor because it's just easier for me. I keep the pedal board under my desk and I'll come into the editor, and if I want to try stuff on a patch, I might be, well, let's see how that sounds with a, room reverb or whatever. Then I'll turn that on and just go ahead and send that, send it to the device live, and then just make the change and see if I like it. Sometimes if I'm not at home or whatever, sometimes I'll just, go through these things on the actual unit itself at my feet and change things that way. But that's kind of the end of everything that I would use when programming. And then after page 5 is this kind of compare page, where I'll make presets for, like, if I want to compare two pedals. A lot of times I just want to click straight from one to the other. Like, how does the Icarus sound by itself, and how does it sound with a compressor in front of it or a compressor after it, or this gain versus that gain or whatever. I'll just come in and I'll make presets for each of those things, and then I'll just make a button that, goes back and forth between those two presets. These are cycle buttons, but you don't have to do it that way. And so I'll use this, I'll just program different stuff in here if I'm wanting to compare something, like shoot out two pedals, or I did it just the other day to be like, how does the compressor sound after this gain instead of before? Like, do I like one better? Do I want to change stuff? So I'll use this for that. And then all the other pages are just old this is a standard loops page. There's a rare time, like I think this is a default for Mastermind setups or whatever, where you can just simply turn on and off all the loops, and you can see they're not updated with labels because I haven't changed them. I don't use this page much, but now and then it's just nice to have one when you're not around your editor. And then the others are all just old iterations of stuff, that I've tried over the years. I used to have a looper and had a way to control that, and then some just other versions of pages that I've tried, functions I've tried over the years and just, abandoned at that point. So, and then there was one other thing I was going to say. What was that? It was somewhere here in all the gains and all the stuff. I can't remember what it is. But anyway, like I said, that's long. But if you have any questions about anything, how this stuff is set up or how it works, let me know. Happy to if you send me an email, I'm happy to send you a copy of this show file if you want to kind of load it up on your own and like dig into it and maybe steal ideas or whatever. I'm always looking at other people's show files, friends and stuff, if they want to send them to me. I've gotten great ideas that way. So let me know if any of that would be helpful, and I hope you enjoyed however many minutes this ends up being. Sorry, not sorry. Okay, see you, bye.